I was 24 the year the Army assigned me to Site Echo 14, a nuclear storage bunker hidden somewhere in the mountains of Colorado. Back then, I thought it was just another Cold War assignment. Long nights, concrete walls, empty hallways. Boring. Safe. I didn't know they built the place on 3 levels, and I didn't know only 2 of them were ever meant to be used. On my very first night, the commanding officer handed me a laminated card with 6 rules typed on it. 5 of them were standard stuff, but the last one didn't make any damn sense. Rule 6. Never enter the lower level between 2300 and 500 hours. Not for patrol, not for inspection, not even if you hear someone calling for help. I actually laughed, thought it was some kind of hazing tradition for rookies. But the CO didn't laugh with me. He just stared and said, "Follow the rules, son. Everyone who didn't isn't here anymore." I shoved the card in my pocket and figured they were exaggerating. The Cold War made people paranoid. But on my 3rd week, at 1:13 a.m., I heard something through the floor, something that made me stop breathing. A voice, a man's voice, calling up from the level below us. "Hello? Can anyone hear me? I need help down here." We weren't supposed to have anyone down there after dark. That's when I learned the rules weren't a joke. They were the only thing keeping us alive. The bunker was built like a steel tomb carved into the mountain. 3 levels stacked on top of each other, connected by a single elevator and 2 stairwells we were ordered not to use after dark. Top level was harmless. Barracks, kitchen, rec room, the usual military boredom. Level 2 held generators, ventilation, and the missile storage vaults. Brightly lit, busy, alive. But the lower level, no one talked about it. No one went near it unless their shift required it. And after 11 p.m., no one even looked at the elevator. Every guard had a theory. Some said the lower level was a discontinued research wing, psychological experiments from the 60s the Army swept under the rug. Others said they tested early electromagnetic weapons down there, and the walls still hummed if you pressed your ear against them. My bunkmate, a guy named Daniels, told me the craziest rumor of all. "He locked something down there," he whispered. "Something they couldn't kill, only contain." I told him to shut up, that he'd been reading too many conspiracy magazines. But every night around 2 a.m., when the whole place fell quiet, we all heard it. Not voices, not footsteps, something worse. Metal, bending, groaning, like a door being pushed from the other side. One night the intercom crackled to life on its own. A calm male voice said, "Need assistance on level 3. We all froze. There was no level 3. There had never been a level 3. The other guards looked at each other, waiting for someone to laugh, waiting for someone to admit it was a joke. No one did. The CO came out of his office, pale as a corpse, grabbed the intercom handset, and shut down the entire system. After that, the rule changed from "don't go down there after dark" to "if the elevator opens on its own, do not approach it." None of us slept after that, and things were only beginning.
3 weeks into my assignment, Rule 6 stopped being a weird superstition and turned into the only reason I'm still alive. It started on a Tuesday night, the kind of night where the bunker felt too quiet. No humming generators, no distant chatter, just the soft drone of fluorescent lights. Daniels and I were on patrol together. He was jittery, kept glancing at the elevator like something was going to crawl out of it. "You hear it last night?" he whispered. I had. We all had. A low, dragging sound coming from the lower level, metal on concrete, like something heavy crawling across the floor. But before I could answer him, we heard something worse. A scream. Not loud, muffled, like it came from several floors down, but we only had 1 floor beneath us. Daniels froze. "Someone's down there. No one's supposed to be down there after 2300. You know that." The scream came again, this time clearer. A man's voice shouting, "Help! Please! Somebody! I'm stuck down here!" I grabbed my radio. "Control, we're hearing unauthorized activity on lower level. Requesting confirmation of personnel." Static. Daniels shook his head. "We can't leave him down there. Daniels, there's no one assigned to lower level today." He didn't listen. Before I could stop him, he hit the elevator button. The light flickered. Then the door slid open with a long metallic sigh. A blast of cold air rushed out, unnaturally cold, like the temperature dropped 20 degrees below. Daniels stepped inside. "Wait!" I grabbed his vest, but he pulled away. "I'm not ignoring someone screaming for help. You can stay if you want." The doors closed, and that was the last time I ever saw him alive. 30 seconds later, the elevator returned. The doors opened slowly, almost gently. I pointed my flashlight inside. Empty. No Daniels, no movement, just cold air spilling out into the hallway. I pressed the button again. The display didn't move, didn't show levels, didn't show Daniel's keycard. It just showed dash, 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 like the elevator wasn't connected to anything anymore. The CO arrived, took one look inside the empty car, then ordered us all back to top level. When we asked where Daniels went, the CO's answer was simple. He was transferred. Transferred at 2:16 in the morning, without packing, without signing out, without ever coming back for his things. Nobody believed it, but nobody questioned it either, because we all knew the truth. The first rule Daniels broke was the last rule he'd ever break. After Daniels disappeared, something changed in the bunker. It wasn't anything we could point to. It was just a shift in the air, like the place was breathing, like it had noticed us. The CO doubled night patrols. Nobody walked alone anymore. and every guard slept with their boots on, just in case we needed to run. That's when the disturbances started. 1. The footsteps. 2 nights after Daniels disappeared, I was manning the monitors at 2 a.m. It was quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard footsteps, heavy, slow, pacing directly beneath the floor. But the lower level had been sealed off since Daniels transferred. No patrols, no maintenance, no reason for footsteps down there. I pressed my ear to the floor. The steps stopped, right under me. And then 2 slow taps, like someone knocking from the other side of a coffin. I jumped back so hard my chair tipped over. The lights. Every light in the hallway leading to the elevator started flickering, not random, in sequence, one after another, like something was walking beneath them. The generator logs showed no disruption, no power surge, no mechanical fault, just lights reacting to something. The cameras. The CCTV system we relied on started glitching in the weirdest ways. Instead of showing the elevator lobby on the lower level, which should have been pitch black, the monitor began displaying a hallway none of us recognized. A hallway with metal walls and a red emergency light pulsing every 2 seconds. We didn't have any hallway like that in the facility. And standing in the frame, facing away from the camera, was a person. A man, unmoving, shoulders hunched, head tilted slightly. I leaned closer. The resolution was terrible, but I recognized the uniform. Our uniform. I recognized the posture, too. Daniels. But he wasn't breathing, wasn't shifting his weight, wasn't doing anything a living person does. He just stood there. Then, barely visible in the grainy footage, Daniels turned his head a fraction. Not enough to see his face, just enough to know he knew we were watching. Then he mouthed something. No sound, no audio, just the shape of his lips. Don't open the door. I hit the alarm, but the screen flickered and went black. When it came back, the hallway was gone. The CO pulled the recording for review. We never saw it again. None of us slept that night, because the rules were no longer just rules. They were warnings, and whatever was on that lower level, it wasn't staying silent anymore. 3 nights after the camera showed Daniels, everything went wrong at once. I was on duty in the control room when it happened. 1:58 a.m. Quiet enough to hear the hum of the old monitors. Then the bunker shook. Just once, a deep, low vibration that rattled the glass in the window and made dust cascade from the vents. I thought it was an earthquake. It wasn't. A second later, every alarm in the bunker erupted at once. Red lights, klaxons, emergency sirens we had never heard before. Then the overhead speaker blared a message that froze every drop of blood in my body. Biological containment breach, lower level. Initiate lockdown protocol. Biological. We weren't storing anything biological. At least, that's what they told us. The CO sprinted into the room, slammed the lockdown switch, and barked, "Stay where you are. No one touches the elevator. No one goes downstairs. No exceptions."
He didn't have to tell us twice. The steel blast door slammed shut across the entire facility, locking each section in place. And then the worst part started. The knocking. At first, I thought the vibrations were just the alarm system, until they became rhythmic. 3 taps, pause, 3 taps, pause, coming from the floor, directly beneath my boots. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I just stared at the concrete, waiting for it to crack open. The knocking continued for almost a full minute before it stopped abruptly, like whoever or whatever was making the sound realized I was listening. The intercom. The room was dead silent after the knocking stopped. Then the intercom crackled. Not the normal buzz. This was a warped, distorted static, like a voice trying to claw its way through the speakers. And then it spoke, but not in a voice I recognized. Open the door. Just 3 words. Calm, soft, wrong. I grabbed the handset. Identify yourself. There was a long pause. Then a different voice came through. A familiar one. Daniel's. It's me. I'm hurt. Open the door. My throat closed. My hands went numb. Daniels had been gone for days. No one survives on the lower level that long. No food, no water, no air. And even if he was alive, the lockdown sealed the lower level completely. I knew what I heard wasn't him. I think, deep down, it was learning, testing voices, trying to guess which one would work on me, trying to get me to break the rules. And then it said something that made my entire body go cold. This time, in my mother's voice, "Please help me." I dropped the handset. Whatever was on the lower level, it didn't just mimic voices. It picked the person you were least able to ignore. And I realized something terrifying. The breach alarm wasn't a malfunction. It wasn't an error. Something down there was trying to come up.
The intercom didn't go quiet after it mimicked my mother. It got bolder, smarter, like it had figured out exactly how to get under our skin. The CO ordered us to shut the system down, but even with the power killed, even with wires physically ripped out of the wall, the speakers still whispered. Not words at first, breathing, slow, shaky, too close, like someone's mouth was right against the microphone. We all stood frozen in the control room, listening to that faint, wet inhaling. It wasn't human. No human breath sounds like it's learning how lungs work. Then the voice tried something new. It used the CO's voice. Perfectly. It said, "This lockdown is a false alarm. Everyone proceed to the lower level immediately." The CO went pale. "I did not say that," he barked. "Don't listen to a damn thing it says." The intercom clicked again. This time, same voice, but wrong. Glitched, offbeat, like it was replaying an impression of the CO from memory. "Everyone, proceed, proceed, proceed." The last word looped until the speaker hissed and shut off. Then,
It started cycling through us. One by one, it tried each of our voices. First Corporal Reeves, then Martinez, then someone who wasn't on shift that night. It didn't matter who was in the room, it imitated them anyway. Each voice would speak a single phrase. "Help me. Come downstairs. I'm trapped." Then silence, like it was waiting to see who reacted. We learned fast. Any reaction encouraged it. So we stayed silent, stone-faced, breaths held. But then it made a mistake. Or maybe it was a tactic. It used Daniel's voice again, but not the version we heard on the intercom before. This one sounded different, clear, normal, almost alive. "It's dark. Please, I can't see anything." One of the new guards broke. He whispered, "Daniels," under his breath. Just a whisper. The voice on the intercom repeated him perfectly. "Daniels." Same tone, same pitch, like a perfect recording of his fear. The guard backed away from the wall so fast he tripped over a chair. That's when we understood something horrifying. It didn't just copy voices. It copied whatever emotion it heard. Fear fed it. Hope fed it. Curiosity fed it. It was building something, a better mask, a more convincing lure. Then, at exactly 3:12 a.m., the intercom whispered, in a voice none of us recognized, "Let me out." Not "help me," not "come down here," not "open the door." Just that one sentence, confident, understanding, aware. And the elevator began to move on its own, rising from the lower level.
The moment the elevator started rising on its own, every alarm in the bunker erupted again. Emergency strobes flashed red across the concrete walls. The CO shouted for everyone to take positions, but we were already doing it, weapons raised, eyes locked on the elevator display. The numbers climbed, B1 to B0. Then it glitched, flickered, stopped showing anything at all. But the motor kept running. We heard it groaning upward through the shaft, metal grinding against metal. Then the elevator dinged. A soft, pleasant, completely out of place sound, like someone arriving on the lobby floor of a hotel. The doors didn't open right away. They creaked, like whatever was inside was pressing against them. Everyone held their breath. Everyone aimed. Everyone waited for Daniels to stumble out, or a scientist, or anything human. Instead, the lights flickered, and for half a second, captured in those flickers, we saw a silhouette through the narrowing crack of the elevator doors. Tall, too tall, a head brushing the top of the elevator ceiling, limbs slightly wrong, long like someone had stretched a human by the bones, shoulders unnaturally wide, tapering down into a torso that moved with a strange, delayed lag. The thing wasn't breathing. It wasn't shifting. It was waiting. The lights cut out completely for 2 seconds, pitch black. When they came back on, the elevator doors were open, but the car was empty. No footsteps, no breathing, nothing, until Reeves pointed his flashlight at the far corner of the lobby. "There, There, do you see that?"
We all did. A shape, standing just outside the range of the light, like it was hiding behind the edge of the darkness itself. Its eyes reflected the beam, not like human eyes, not like glass. They reflected infrared the same way animals do, except these reflections pulsed like pupils dilating, like it was adjusting its vision to see us better. The CO whispered, "Don't move." But the thing, it tilted its head, slow, curious, like it was studying us. And then the intercom crackled back to life. The voice that came through wasn't mimicking anyone anymore. It whispered one word: "Found you." The entire hallway went cold. Every light flickered. The elevator jolted violently, as if something heavy had just stepped back inside. The CO finally screamed, "Seal the doors! Lock it down! Now!" Two guards slammed the manual lock bars across the elevator entrance. The metal bent under pressure, something pushing from inside, hard. One more shove and it would have broken through. But then, the pushing stopped. Just like that. The pressure vanished. The metal unbent. The light steadied. The alarms silenced. Whatever was in that elevator, it changed its mind. Or it learned something. Maybe it realized we weren't the weak ones. Maybe it realized it needed a better way out. Because as we backed away, shaking, weapons trembling in our hands, the intercom whispered again, this time in Daniel's voice, but calm, almost cheerful. "Next time." For 3 days after the elevator tried to come up on its own, the bunker stayed in a state of controlled panic. The CO doubled the guards, triple-checked every lock, shut down every access route to the lower level except the elevator, the only entrance the thing hadn't managed to break yet. We all knew it was waiting, listening, learning, but none of us expected it to try again so soon. The second attempt. It happened at 4:03 a.m. We were all gathered in the communications room for an emergency briefing when the power cut out. Not all at once, section by section, a rolling blackout moving down the hallways toward the elevator, like something was moving with it. The CO's face went white. "Positions, now!" Reeves sprinted to the manual elevator controls. I followed, flashlight shaking in my hand. Before we reached the door, we heard it. A thud. Then another. Then a series of rapid, violent impacts, something slamming against the elevator doors from the inside. Not tapping, not knocking, throwing itself at the metal. Each hit browed the steel outward. "Hold it shut!" the CO screamed. 5 of us pressed our bodies against the door, hands braced against cold metal. Another hit, harder, the entire wall shuddered. Then we heard it. A voice from behind the door. Not mimicking, not imitating, just speaking. Deep, layered, like it came from multiple throats at once. It said, "Let me out." My knees buckled. Reeves whispered, "It's getting stronger." One more hit, and the bolts began to shear off the frame. "Welders! Bring the plates! Move!" 2 engineers ran in carrying thick steel reinforcement panels, the kind meant for nuclear blast protection.
We didn't have time to install them properly. We just had to stall when it whispered my name. Amid the chaos, amid the alarms and the bending steel, the voice shifted again. It grew quieter, softer, like it leaned its head against the inside of the elevator door. Then, in perfect clarity, it whispered, my name. Not shouted, not distorted, just spoken the way a friend would say it. Not Daniel's version, not my mother's, not anyone I knew. It was new, a voice it created just for me, one that sounded trustworthy, warm, human. Open the door, please. The others didn't hear it. Their names weren't called. And that's when I realized the truth. It wasn't mimicking anymore. It was crafting, personalizing, understanding us piece by piece, learning exactly what it needed to say, exactly who it needed to sound like. It knew our fears, our habits, our weaknesses. This thing wasn't just escaping, it was hunting. The reinforcement. Just before the bolts could snap completely, the welders slapped the steel plates across the door. The creature hit the metal again. This time the plates absorbed the force. A second hit, a third, each weaker than the last. Then silence. Nothing. The weight against the door lifted. The air warmed again. Whatever was in the elevator, it gave up, or it changed tactics. The CO ordered a complete shutdown of the lower level. Power severed, elevator locked, access welded over until the steel glowed orange. We watched the metal cool with our rifles raised, terrified it would bulge outward again. But it didn't. The thing was gone. For now. After we welded the elevator shut, the CO ordered everyone to the upper briefing room. Nobody argued. Nobody spoke. We were too shaken, too aware that the metal behind us was the only thing separating us from whatever had tried to push its way out. The CO locked the door behind us, took off his hat, and rubbed his face with both hands like he was trying to wipe away 10 years of stress. Then he said something I never expected. Sit down. It's time you all knew what we're dealing with. We were all staring at him, exhausted, wide-eyed, barely holding ourselves together. He paced in front of us like a man who'd rehearsed this speech 100 times and desperately hoped he'd never have to deliver it. It wasn't supposed to survive. That's how he began. The lower level, he said, wasn't built for missile storage. It wasn't built for research. It wasn't built for anything the Army had ever admitted to. It was a containment wing for a failed experiment. Back in the early 1960s, before any of us were even enlisted, the government greenlit a project called Operation Nightwell, a psychological endurance program, extreme isolation, sensory deprivation, electromagnetic immersion, weeks alone in sealed chambers deep underground. The idea, he said, was to push the human mind to its breaking point, then past it. But something went wrong, terribly wrong. The subjects didn't just break psychologically, they changed physically. The first symptom was voice mimicry. We thought it was delirium, hallucination. Then we heard them do it in real time. The second symptom was worse. It wasn't just that they stopped responding. They kept moving, kept shifting, kept pacing in their rooms for hours after going clinically brain dead.
Something inside them kept going, he whispered, voice shaking. Something adaptive, something parasitic, something that learned. The project was shut down, every entrance welded, every record buried. And the subjects? They sealed them inside the deepest chamber, all but one, the one they couldn't contain. Every few years, it wakes up. The CO tapped the table with a trembling finger. In '64, it tried to breach. Again in '68, and once in '71. The only reason they kept the bunker operational at all was to monitor the lower level, to make sure whatever was down there stayed down there. And now it's active again. We asked the obvious question, what does it want? The CO didn't answer first. He just stared at the floor. Then he said this: it wants to leave, and it wants a host to do it. Silence settled across the room like dust. That thing, that towering silhouette, that voice that spoke in all hours, it didn't want to kill us. It wanted to be us. Evacuation. Before dawn, a convoy arrived. Black trucks, no insignias, government men who didn't give us their names. They escorted us out of the facility with zero explanation. We weren't even allowed to pack. When we got outside, they already had construction crews lowering massive concrete slabs over the bunker entrance, hermetically sealed, permanent, buried under tons of reinforced material. You don't repair places like that. You don't dismantle them. You bury them alive and hope they stay dead. The last thing I saw. As we were loaded onto the trucks, I glanced one last time at the mountain, at the sealed hatch, at the fresh cement still steaming in the cold morning air. For just a moment, just long enough for my heart to stop, I saw the steel bulge outward, like something beneath it was still pushing, still alive, still learning. They reassigned us across the country within 48 hours. Different units, different states, no transfer papers, no official explanations, just a handshake, a sealed envelope, and one final warning. Do not discuss Echo 14 with anyone. I tried to move on. I really did. But you don't forget nights like that. You don't forget the sound of metal bending from the inside. You don't forget hearing your own voice beg you to open a door. For years I couldn't sleep without the lights on, couldn't stand elevators, couldn't stand being underground. And then, about 8 years later, I made the mistake of reading the newspaper. A familiar mountain. It was a small article in the back of the Denver Post, barely 4 paragraphs long. Unidentified seismic activity recorded in the Rockies. Old Cold War bunkers shifting due to structural failures. But what caught my eye wasn't the headline. It was the location. Coordinates. The exact coordinates of Echo 14. They said it was just the mountain settling, old concrete giving way, an internal collapse. Except I'd seen a collapse before. This wasn't that. This was movement. A pressure building inside something buried too deep. Something waking up. The phone call. 2 days after that article, I got a phone call.
No caller ID, just static at first. Then a voice, my mother's. Clear, soft, familiar. Except my mother had passed 3 years earlier. The voice said, "It's dark down here. I can't see. Please open the door." My hand went numb. The receiver nearly slipped from my grasp. Then another voice layered over hers, not replacing it, combining with it, growing stronger, learning again. "Found you." I hung up so hard I cracked the phone. The dream. The night after the call, I had a dream. I was back in the bunker, same hallway, same lights, same cold air leaking through the concrete. And down at the far end, beyond the welded steel, I saw a shape pressing through the door. Slowly, deliberately, not breaking it, not forcing its way out, just testing it. The metal flexed outward like soft clay. Then I heard it right behind me, breathing, slow, steady, learning how to mimic lungs again. I woke up with blood on my sheets. My nose had been bleeding, and under the ringing in my ears, I swear I heard something else, something faint. 3 taps. Knock, knock, knock. Just like it used to knock on the floor beneath me. The last truth. I used to think the bunker's rules were created to keep us safe, but now I know better. Those rules weren't for us. Those rules were for it, to give it boundaries, limits, patterns it couldn't break without drawing attention. But now the bunker is gone. The walls are gone. The welded doors are gone. All that's left are dirt and stone. Nothing between it and the world above. Nothing left to keep it contained. And at night, when my house is quiet, when the wind dies, when the world feels still, sometimes I hear that soft, familiar voice just outside my bedroom door. Next time.